Growing up in the Midwest, I always believed in the simplicity of love, straightforward, honest, and enduring. My parents, married for 4 decades, embodied that ideal. They taught me to respect others, stay true to my commitments, and never take relationships lightly. Little did I know, these lessons would be tested in the most heartbreaking way possible. As a young adult, I carried these values into my relationships. By the time I met Lynn in graduate school, I thought I had found someone who shared them. She was vibrant and intelligent, and her warmth seemed to match my steady nature. Together, we built a life filled with hope, ambitions, and dreams for the future. But as I would discover, appearances can be deceiving. Happiness cannot be sustained when it comes at the cost of another person's suffering. I'm Tyler Clinton, and this is the story of how my marriage unraveled. For the record, I am not related to the former president, although I've often joked about the irony of the name, especially in light of his controversies. I never thought I'd grapple with a question as unsettling as why a spouse would violate the foundation of trust while clinging to the relationship. Yet here I am, sitting on my back porch on a brisk May evening, awaiting the arrival of my estranged wife. She received the divorce papers earlier today, and I have no idea how she will respond. In my eyes, she's completely lost her way. It's been 3 weeks since I discovered the affair, and the memory of that day is still raw and vivid. We picked the back porch for privacy. Our 2-acre lot ensures no neighbors will hear any shouting. Plus, there's a private detective parked nearby for safety in case things get out of hand. Lindsay Linteam, my wife, is smart and beautiful. We met in grad school in Chicago. I was pursuing an MBA in medicine and public health, and she was studying to become a nurse anesthetist. She worked long, emotionally draining hours in the neonatal unit before moving to more manageable shifts as a nurse anesthetist, which paid better with less stress. Lynn's main flaw? She gets bored easily and craves novelty. Whether it was a new app, friend, or restaurant, she always sought out fresh experiences. We discussed this early on, and I made my traditional views on marriage clear. Commitment means finding newness within the same relationship. She seemed to agree despite her restless nature. I insisted on a prenup, which she saw as an insult, but eventually signed. The agreement was simple. Assets gained during marriage split 50/50ths, except in cases of infidelity. Then it was 80/20ths. We didn't think much about it until now. After our wedding, we moved from Chicago to Des Moines, Iowa, attracted by low living costs, a strong economy, a vibrant downtown, and excellent healthcare opportunities. Winters were cold, but springs and falls were mild, and summers warm without the oppressive humidity of places like St. Louis. Des Moines even had the best sweet corn in July and August. In 8 years, we built careers we loved, a beautiful home, and genuine friendships. I believed, until 3 weeks ago, we had a solid, if not perfect, marriage. Yes, we argued over silly things, toothpaste squeezing habits, dishwashing frequency, but mostly we took evening walks, had porch conversations, and went on weekend trips. We shared our thoughts and were honest with each other, or so I thought. We were both 34, looking forward to becoming parents. Now, you might wonder, was I bad in bed? Is Lynn so gorgeous she constantly attracts admirers? Did we consider an open marriage? Were there signs I ignored? Was her lover some irresistible Adonis, or was she changing her financial situation? Here's how it all unfolded. First, Lynn genuinely seemed happy with our life. I've never claimed to be perfect, but I put in the effort and there were no complaints. Second, Lynn is beautiful, witty, and intelligent, an Irish-Italian mix, 5'8" inches with a blend of blonde and brunette hair. Third, I noticed no warning signs. If I missed them, it's on me for not paying attention to her love for novelty. Fourth, I've never been unfaithful apart from friendly hellos or goodbye hugs. Fifth, her affair partner is attractive, but not overwhelmingly so. Around my height, 6'1", a similar build, blonde hair and blue eyes. He's 28, a medical student working in the OR for 2 months. 6, while he may earn well in the future, his current financial status doesn't compare to ours. She earns 100 grand and I make twice that. As for how this all began, it started 3 weeks ago. Late April, I was at a medical administrators conference in Kansas City for 3 days, supposed to be 4. But I left early when the last day's workshops didn't interest me. It had been a productive trip. I met peers from my region, networked, and enjoyed some laughs over beers. On the 3rd day, I told them I'd leave early the next morning. Driving back, I listened to Dan Carlin's WWY History podcast. I took my time on the nearly 3-hour drive, planning to surprise my wife, who was starting a 3-day break. I set off at 5 a.m., intending to wake her up around 8 a.m. But when I got home, her car, a 2018 black Honda Accord, wasn't in the driveway. It hadn't rained in a week, so I knew she hadn't parked in the garage. Confused, I checked inside. The house looked untouched. The bed was made, rare unless it was laundry day, and no leftover dinner was in the fridge. I called her, but it went to voicemail. We both have the Glimpse app for tracking each other's locations, so I checked and saw her phone was near the airport. The sense of worry crept in. Our house is in northeast Des Moines, near the Harvester Golf Course where we're members. The airport, though, is across town. After 15 minutes, I called Lynn again, trying to sound casual when she answered. But when she did, everything changed. "Hey, babe," Lynn's voice came through, groggy. "Why are you calling so early on my day off?" "I'm sorry, Lynn," I said, doing my best to sound calm. "I just missed you and had some time before my morning session. Wanted to hear your voice." I realized she wasn't in our bed. "It's okay, Ty. Always happy to hear from my favorite husband," she replied. "You sound like you're still in bed, so I'll let you rest," I said. "Just wanted to say I love you and will be home for dinner tomorrow unless you need me back earlier." "That's sweet," Lynn said, "but I have errands and dinner plans with Kim and Sally tonight. We planned it weeks ago." Before she could end the call, I interjected, "Before you go, could you check the top drawer of my nightstand for the pen you gave me? I thought I lost it." "Ty, I really want to go back to sleep," she sighed. "Can I check later and call you before lunch?" That was the wrong response. Normally, Lynn would have said, "I'll check now, and if it's not there, I won't be happy about losing my gift." My heart raced, but I kept my tone steady. "Okay, Lynn, just don't forget to check. Go back to sleep. Sorry for waking you." "Thanks, babe," she said softly. "I'll call you soon. Love you." I couldn't even say, "I love you too." I hung up and headed to my car, hoping for a miracle but expecting the worst. The drive to the airport took 30 minutes instead of 40. I was lucky not to get stopped for speeding. The Glimpse app showed her phone still at the same location. If she checked it and realized I was close, we'd have a serious confrontation. But I doubted she would. She was probably too preoccupied to check. The GPS led me to the Hampton Inn near DSM Airport. I parked at the far end of the lot, then moved to the adjacent Quality Inn lot to avoid being seen in my dark blue Genesis G70. I watched the entrance, fighting back tears and trying to process everything. Was she really cheating? Why? Could there be an innocent reason? But nothing made sense. If she wanted to relax, she'd be at home or somewhere familiar. After an hour of waiting, I finally saw Lynn with Justin Banks, the young medical student. They were holding hands and exchanging kisses as they made their way out of the building. My heart sank. I discreetly took a few photos as they kissed again before getting into his car. I remembered meeting Justin at the hospital 2 months ago. He had an arrogant demeanor and a firm, almost confrontational handshake. I hadn't liked him then, and had even mentioned it to Lynn. "Ty, you know doctors can be narcissistic idiots. Justin's not like that," she had said dismissively. Now, watching them together, I fought to stay composed. What were my options? Should I go to court? Hire a private investigator? I needed to come up with a plan, so I forced myself to think clearly. Judging by their lack of overnight bags, they were likely just going out for food before returning. I checked their location using Glimpse and saw they had stopped at a diner 2 miles away. I had some time. I walked into the Hampton Inn lobby, which was nearly empty except for a middle-aged woman at the front desk. She greeted me with a polite smile. "Good morning. How can I help you?" I noted her name tag and the wedding ring on her hand. "Hi, Beth. I'm Tyler, and I need your help." "Nice to meet you, Tyler," she said, her smile steady. "What can I do for you? Do you need a room?" "No," I replied seriously. "Did you notice a couple, a brunette woman and a young blonde man, leave about 15 minutes ago?" Her smile faltered, replaced by a look of concern. "Yes, I did. What's going on?" "The woman is my wife," I said, my voice controlled, "and I suspect she's cheating on me with that man." Beth's expression turned hesitant. "I'm not sure how I can help with that." "Beth, please," I said, leaning forward. "I just need to check their room for confirmation. Housekeeping can come with me. I won't cause any trouble. I just need 2 minutes. I see you're married. I hope you understand what this means to me." Beth paused before replying. "You seem genuine. I did notice the couple, but I try not to interfere in others' affairs. Can you give me the woman's name?" She paid with her credit card. "Her name is Lindsay Clinton, likely using her American Express Gold card," I said, offering to provide the number. She checked and confirmed it within moments. "Could you call housekeeping? I asked. No need, she said, raising her voice. Thomas, a porter appeared. Yes, Beth? I'll be gone for 5 minutes to the 3rd floor. You're in charge. Thomas looked proud, nodding. Yes, ma'am. Beth signaled me to follow her, and we rode the elevator in silence. At room 319, she scanned the key card. It turned green. I walked in while she kept the door ajar. I quickly saw men's clothes scattered. Shirt, khakis, loafers. On the far side of the bed lay the beige blouse I bought Lynn and a dark blue skirt. My heart sank. I took photos and a 60-second video, narrating as I recorded, I'm in room 319 at the Hampton Inn near Des Moines Airport. It's 5:10 a.m. on Thursday, April 28, 2022. This room was booked by my wife, Lindsay Clinton, using her American Express Gold Card. Last night, she checked in with Justin Banks, a medical student from her hospital. The evidence suggests they were here overnight. I saw them leave 15 minutes ago, kissing and holding hands. I glanced into the bathroom but found nothing notable. Before leaving, I grabbed a couple of items thinking DNA tests might be useful or just to unsettle Lynn. Back in the elevator, tears started falling. Beth, kind-hearted, put a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Mr. Clinton. As we reached the lobby, I reached for my wallet. Don't even think about it, son, she said firmly. I smiled, thanked her, and requested, please don't mention I was here. She smirked, winked, and said, I've never seen you before in my life. With my plan complete, I needed a next step. My limited legal knowledge suggested acting impulsively could backfire, even with the prenup. The good news? I wasn't due home until late Friday night, giving me time to plan. I drove 30 miles southeast to Winterset and sat at Rudy's restaurant on John Wayne Drive. This was Wayne's hometown, known for its small museum. My dad, a die-hard John Wayne fan, had brought my brother and me here often. In my booth, I noticed a quote from the shootist on the wall. I won't be wronged, I won't be insulted, I won't have my hand raised on me. I don't do that to other people, and I require the same from them. I chuckled, muttering, Damn right, Pilgrim. The waitress, catching my impression, rolled her eyes and joked, So, young man, want some food? I ordered coffee and a big breakfast, finding brief comfort in a simple meal. As I ate, I read articles on infidelity. Experts suggested this wasn't a one-time thing. Their behavior was too comfortable for that. Statistically, women rarely cheat just once, so this had likely been ongoing. But I needed proof, and I wasn't staying with a cheating wife. Forgiveness was possible, but trust was gone. I planned to hire help for evidence and get legal and financial advice. I also needed an STD test. Justin Banks was likely exposed too. With about 36 hours to act, I was ready. After leaving a generous $50 tip for my $16 meal, I texted Lynn. Found my pen in my bag. Sorry, she replied. Lucky for you. I wanted to respond angrily, but settled for a simple, uh-huh. 2 hours later, I found myself at the offices of Templeton, Sharp, and Schaefer. Ed Templeton, whom I had met at a charity event, sat across from me, listening intently as I recounted my story. I'm sorry to hear that, Tyler, Ed said sympathetically. Thanks, Ed, I replied. This situation is complicated legally. Not having kids simplifies things somewhat, but without clear fault, the court may push for counseling. If your prenuptial agreement is solid, you could mitigate financial loss. Eli Sharp, our divorce specialist, will handle your case. Diane will set up a meeting for you. An hour later, I was seated in Eli Sharp's office. He was a lean, intense man standing at 5'10", his driven nature evident from his years as a competitive swimmer. His reputation as a fierce attorney preceded him. Eli listened carefully, asked a series of pointed questions, and laid out a strategic plan. Are they still at the Hampton Inn today? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. I'll find out, Eli said, picking up the phone. Diane, get me connected with Molly. I need a full report on Lindsay Clinton's stay at the Hampton Inn by noon. Yes, I know it's a rush, he said before hanging up. He turned back to me. Molly Baker is our top investigator. 18 years of experience in Chicago. If your wife is there, we'll know by tomorrow. Eli recommended that I get tested for STDs, suggesting that my wife might attempt to cover her tracks. I assured him I could expedite the tests through Dr. Stan Rosen, a friend. Eli then set up an appointment with a forensic accountant and handed me a checklist that included reviewing the prenup. If Lynn comes home tonight, don't confront her, Eli cautioned. We need solid facts, and this will take weeks. Most judges here disapprove of infidelity, so remain composed. If she starts any discussions, claim you're unwell, otherwise act normal. So, no calls or chasing Justin down with a bat? I joked. Exactly, no rash actions. Can you manage that? Eli asked. Yes, you have my word, I said. Good, that's what I needed to hear. We shook hands, and I left. Not ready to go home, I still had my travel bag, so I visited a different gym, paid for a day pass, and worked out hard for 2 hours. After a long steam and shower, I checked into the downtown Hyatt and ordered room service with a bottle of Maker's Mark. After my second drink, I turned off my phone, hid it in the closet, and tried to avoid contacting Lynn while drunk. I spent the night crying, angry, and frustrated until passing out. I woke up at 7 a.m. with the worst hangover since college. A sip of whiskey from my Yeti helped, and after a shower, I felt more human. I spent an hour at Starbucks working on my financial report, then met Dr. Stan Rosen by 8:30. He drew my blood and said he'd rush the lab for results, though they might not arrive until Monday. At the office, I met with Lois Montgomery, who spent 2 hours reviewing my financials. The prenup secures 80% of your assets in an infidelity case, she explained, but expect a 50-50th split on the house. No alimony obligations, but retirement and savings could be divided. She promised a full report by day's end. I then met Eli Sharp again. He was talking to Molly Elkington, a sharp-eyed woman with short brown hair. Her firm handshake and the tool on her belt made it clear she was not to be trifled with. After brief introductions, she got straight to business. Mr. Clinton, your wife is involved with Justin Banks. Thanks to Beth, we installed audio-visual surveillance at the Hampton Hotel, she said. Beth also mentioned she has a lovely niece in Cedar Bluffs, in case you're interested someday. Molly handed me a folder. This contains photos and a video on a thumb drive. I suggest you don't look at them unless prepared for the impact. Molly summarized their activities. They checked in at 1 p.m., left for dinner at 6, returned by 8, and checked out around 10. She handed over the evidence, expressed her sympathy, and left. Sharp poured me a shot of Knob Creek to steady my nerves, which I downed in one go. We talked through the next steps, and I updated him on my blood tests. He asked, "What's your ultimate goal, Tyler? What matters most when this is over?" I paused. I need to leave as soon as possible. I can stay calm and avoid rash actions, but being near her makes me sick. Please make sure the prenup terms are upheld. I can accept splitting the house and minor assets, but I don't want her benefiting financially at my expense. I also want to maintain my dignity and ensure everyone knows she was unfaithful. I don't want to involve the hospital, as I work there too, but I want it known that we broke up because of her affair with Justin Banks. And if there's any way to damage his career, I'd love for him to end up working somewhere far from here. Sharp nodded. The prenup should hold. We'll make sure the reason for the breakup is known, but the court may still suggest counseling if your wife fights the divorce. Her lawyer might try to drag it out, hoping to wear you down. As for Banks, the hospital could take action if they have behavioral standards, but don't get your hopes up. He continued, You'll need to go home soon. You might manage to stay away this weekend, but you'll have to return and act normal. If she suspects anything, she could act before we're ready. And remember, stay away from Banks. If you need help staying in control, I'll have Molly assign someone to watch over you. I promise I'll keep it together, I said, even if it meant clenching my jaw until it hurt. I left Sharp's office on Friday afternoon and sat in my car, trying to think of how to go home without spilling everything. Realizing I couldn't, I drove south toward Kansas City. Lynn was expecting me around 7. After 90 minutes, I stopped in Bethany, Missouri, and went to a tire shop. A man named Ed, mid-40s, was behind the counter, uninterested in helping so late on a Friday. "Can I help you?" he asked. "I need 4 new tires," I replied. "These tires are good for another 10,000 miles, he grumbled. "I don't care about the cost. Can you do it?" He sighed and said, "Not today, but by 10 tomorrow." The total was $1,455. "Great," I said. He processed the order, then returned to his magazine. I checked into the Super 8 for $78 a night and called Lynn. "Hey, babe, you're almost home," she said, sounding cheerful after her time with Justin. "Sorry, Lynn, I hit debris and blew 2 tires. I'm stuck in Bethany, Missouri until tomorrow." I didn't say the part about inviting Justin over. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just tired. Sorry for the delay. I'll see you tomorrow. I miss you, but be safe. I love you. Good night, Lynn." I didn't know if she noticed my lack of response, but at that moment, I didn't care. I opened the envelope Molly gave me, revealing photos of my wife cheating with Justin. After composing myself, I plugged in the flash drive and watched the video evidence. The pain was overwhelming and anger surged within me. Lynn's betrayal shattered me. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never seriously considered being with another woman. Sure, I noticed attractive women, but breaking my vows was never an option. Lynn, who was offended by the prenup, now seemed selfish and only concerned with her own desires. The heartbreak was real, but my anger outweighed it. This wouldn't go unanswered. The coming weeks would be hard, but I'd play my part until I could leave, and Justin would face consequences too. The next morning, I grabbed fast food tacos for breakfast and washed it down with coffee. I headed to Ed's tire shop, where he seemed more cheerful, likely planning to sell my old tires for extra cash. By 11:30, my car had new tires, and I was out of excuses to delay going home. I thought of ways to mess with Lynn's mind, feeling repulsed at the idea of touching her. Before heading home, I made a stop near Des Moines and arrived home around 1:30. Lynn's car was there, and I walked inside to the sound of light jazz. She was washing dishes, swaying to the music, unaware of my arrival. I grabbed her from behind and she jumped. "Damn, Ty, you scared me! Let go!" Lynn snapped, irritation in her voice. My eyes caught a mark on her neck, but I forced myself to stay composed. "What the hell, Ty? Now I have a mark and I'll be embarrassed at work on Monday," she complained. "Just tell them your husband got too eager," I muttered, turning away before she could respond. I went upstairs, unpacked, showered, changed, and came back down. Lynn was at the table texting. When she looked up, the anger on her face had softened, but her eyes were distant. "Leave it, Lynn," I said. "I've been away longer than planned, thinking about you. I tried to be spontaneous, but you weren't impressed. You told me to hurry back. Sorry for misreading that. Enjoy your day. I'm leaving." Without waiting for a reply, I walked out, got in my car, and left. I went to the golf clubhouse, changed, and practiced hitting balls. I thought how single life might give me time to improve my game, but the thought was hollow. A few hours later, I sat in the locker room with a beer, chatting with some friends, including Tom Harris, an investment banker and close friend. While talking with Tom, I learned his wife, Connie, was in Denver visiting family, so I invited him to dinner. We went to Mulberry Stith Tavern at 4 p.m., had bourbon, and enjoyed burgers while watching the Cardinals-Mets game. For the first time in days, I felt a bit normal. We left around 7 p.m., and I checked my phone. Lynn had sent 6 texts, spaced 30 minutes apart. "Ty, I'm so sorry. Please come home so we can talk. Ty, where are you? Stop ignoring me. I know you're seeing these. Come home now." "What? Don't say I didn't try to reach out. I'm not the stubborn one here." I thought, "No, you're just the lying, cheating one," but said nothing and went to a movie, Firestar, about a girl who could start fires with her mind. The movie ended around 10 p.m., and I drove home. Lynn's car was gone, likely because she was with Justin. I returned to the club for a few drinks and came home around 11:30 p.m. She was already in bed, waiting for me. "Thanks for ignoring my texts." "Where were you?" she demanded. "I went to the club, had dinner with Tom, watched a movie, came home, went back to the club when you weren't here, and then came back." "And you?" I asked. "Nowhere in particular," she replied. "Been with anyone?" I pressed further. "No, just met a friend at the coffee shop." "Who?" I challenged. "Does it matter?" Lynn deflected. "We need to talk about earlier." "All right, talk," I said, my tone even. "I'm sorry for how I reacted. Your aggression scared me and felt disrespectful. Respect is an important part of my love for you, and I didn't feel it today." "Lynn, you've been asking me to spice things up. I thought that meant you wanted something more intense physically. If not, then explain." "I meant romantic gestures, like a candlelit dinner or a weekend getaway," she clarified. "We've been doing that for years, Lynn. Your explanation doesn't add up." "It's true, but I meant in new places," she said, trying to shift the narrative. "That's nonsense. You're changing the story to make me look bad. If you've changed your mind, just say it, but don't lie." "Why are you taking this so literally? I didn't want things to be rough or leave marks," she said, frustration creeping into her voice. "Do you even remember what you were wearing during that conversation?" I asked. "What? No. Why does that matter?" "It shows context. You dressed up and we were engaged for an hour. Are you saying you want romance without passion? No husband would interpret it differently. You're twisting things to make me wrong. Let's just drop it, Ty. Come to bed and hold me," she said, her tone softening. "I'm sorry, but that won't work. I'll respect your boundaries, but don't make this solely my fault. You're more worried about people noticing the mark than my feelings. I won't pretend I'm in the wrong." "Good night, Lynn," I said, turning to leave for the guest room. "Ty, come back. I'm not done talking," she called after me. "Damn it," I muttered under my breath, ignoring her. I kept my distance, confident that my strategy of FWLH, fake withdrawal, limited hostility, was working. Lynn didn't suspect I knew about her affair. Sunday was tense and cold. We avoided each other entirely. I spent the day at the club and working in the yard. That night, I went to bed early. When Lynn entered later, her anger was palpable. "I'm not sleeping here until you apologize, Ty," she said firmly. "That's fine, Lynn. We'll take turns. Tonight, I'm staying here. If you don't like it, the guest room is open. Tomorrow, I'll sleep there." "I don't agree. Go to the guest room until you come to your senses," she demanded. "Lynn, you don't make the rules. We're equals. I'm staying here tonight. It's your choice." "Fool," she muttered and left for the guest room. The next few days were the same. Minimal interaction. On Monday night, she complained about being teased at work over her hickey. I shrugged, indifferent. Tuesday morning, Dr. Stan Rosen called me into his office. "I have some bad news, Tyler," he said. "You tested positive for mild chlamydia. It's not uncommon for men to show no symptoms. The good news is that treatment will clear it up, but you'll need to inform Lynn and avoid sexual contact for a few weeks." "How did you contract it?" "From my wife. She's been unfaithful," I admitted. "Doctor-patient confidentiality, please." "I'm sorry to hear that, Tyler. I thought your marriage was strong," Dr. Rosen said, his tone sympathetic. "I'll prescribe azithromycin. It's important that Lynn knows as soon as possible. Untreated chlamydia can cause serious complications for women. Waiting more than 48 hours to inform her would be irresponsible." "I understand, Stan," I replied. He promised to send the prescription to a discreet pharmacy. Later, I explained everything to Eli Sharp, who found my FWLH tactic amusing, but warned me to be subtle. His tone turned serious over the STD. "That changes things," he said. "Even as a lawyer, I can't condone withholding health risks. You have 48 hours, so act within 24. Let's reconvene tomorrow at 8. Lynn came home at 10 that night, hours after her shift ended. She glanced at me, watching only homicides in the building, sighed, and went upstairs without a word. Normally, she joined me for popcorn and wine. The realization that those moments were gone filled me with deep loss. I felt betrayed and knew that staying with Lynn after her affair was impossible. Yet a part of me still loved her, mourning the loss of what we once had. The next morning, I found myself in the conference room at TC&C Company with Eli Sharp, Molly's investigator, and attorney Mick Sawyer. "It's time to take action, Ty. The STD diagnosis changes the situation. Have you thought about how you'll tell her?" Sharp asked. "Yes, I want her caught off guard before she's served. I'm considering sending an anonymous tip to her OB/GYN about the chlamydia. That way the doctor can inform her and Molly can confirm that I sent it, proving I acted responsibly within the 48-hour window. Would this approach hold up in court?" I asked. Sharp paused before responding. "It's not ideal, but it's not illegal. However, judges will want to know who was aware and what measures they took to prevent escalation. I don't think it's a wise move." "I agree," said Molly. "Same here," Mick chimed in with a smirk. "Don't do it." Sharp added, "Eventually, Lynn will realize it was you, which will tip her off that you know about the affair." "That'll buy me a day or two, which is all I need to prepare. Thanks for the advice, but I'm going ahead with this," I said firmly. Molly nodded. "I'll witness it to confirm that you followed through." With the plans set, I left the meeting and sent an anonymous message to Dr. Pamela Connors. "I'm aware that one of your patients, Mrs. Lindsay Clinton, has chlamydia. Please act accordingly." I destroyed the burner phone and threw it into a pond, ignoring Iowa's littering laws. Meanwhile, Molly parked outside Dr. Connor's office and watched Lynn arrive. She left 45 minutes later, visibly distressed, and picked up a prescription at a pharmacy before heading home. I sat on the porch, watching the Cardinals crush the Royals in a 10-0 victory. Lynn walked past me without a word and headed upstairs. Later, she came outside, looking fresh from a shower. "Ty, can we call a truce?" she asked. "How would that work, Lynn?" I replied. "Let's just end the argument," she said. "I don't think that's enough." "Why Ty?" she asked, her voice tinged with curiosity, likely unsettled by the news from her doctor. "I'm willing to forgive, but I've apologized multiple times for misunderstanding your spice it up comment. You haven't admitted any fault. If we just move on now, it feels like I'm the one who loses. I think we're both responsible, but you don't seem to see it that way." "Fine," she said, a hint of irritation in her voice. "I'm sorry. Happy now?" "No, Lynn. I know when you're not sincere. You're saying the right words, but your tone doesn't match. Prove me wrong, show me where you believe you were at fault, and we can move forward." She looked at me briefly, and for a moment there was a flicker of sadness in her eyes. I thought she might confess. Maybe I'd misjudged her and she was ready to apologize. Could I forgive her and save our marriage? The idea scared me, but I didn't need to worry. Her expression shifted to one of defiance. She still blamed me. That's when I knew it was really over. You're so stubborn, Tyler. I apologized, but it's never enough for you. If this doesn't get fixed, it's on you, she said. Well, Lindsay Abbott Simon, I said, using her maiden name. I can hear the right words, but I know you don't mean them. If you can find one friend who agrees I'm being unreasonable and that you've done nothing wrong, I'll accept it. She glared at me, stood up, and stormed inside. I let out a deep sigh. It had been almost a week since I discovered her betrayal, and the next couple of weeks would be difficult. The following morning, I was in my boss's office. Connie Silverton, Unity's tough but fair CEO, listened intently as I explained my personal situation. Tyler, I'm sorry to hear that. Divorce is difficult. I know from watching my parents go through it, but I need to know you'll stay focused and committed to your work here at Unity, she said. Connie, I'm hurt but not broken. I won't let this affect my career or my dedication to the company, I assured her. Good. There's a hospital CFO conference in DC next week. Normally, I'd pass on having you attend due to budget constraints, but I think this time it would be beneficial. It runs Monday to Thursday. If you want, you can visit your family on the East Coast over the weekend, but you'd need to cover those expenses yourself, she said. Deal. I'd hug you, but I don't want Mike to get jealous, I said, attempting a light joke. She smiled warmly. I'll handle the paperwork, Tyler. Now let's start thinking about our upcoming contract talks with the nurses union. On it, boss. If I can save 5% on the deal, can we talk about my year-end bonus? I asked. Connie's smile widened. Absolutely. Her serious look signaled our meeting was over. I only needed to get through 3 days before the conference. I stayed focused, even managing to frustrate Jody Meyer, the nurses union rep, by rejecting their latest offer. Let her stew over the weekend, I thought. On the way home, I called my dad and brother to let them know I'd be in the area and wanted to see them. They promised to make time, despite the short notice. I didn't share my troubles yet, but knew they'd support me. Before heading home, I called attorney Eli Sharp, who said this was a great time to have Molly's team gather more evidence on Lynn's affair. When I got home, Lynn wasn't there, which was unusual, but nothing had been normal for over a week. It was her second day off, and we had no plans. For all I knew, she could have been with Justin or someone else. The idea that there could be others hit me hard. I decided to go for a run. Running a few miles a couple of times a week had always helped clear my head. Today, I pushed harder, trying to tire myself out enough to sleep. My world was collapsing, and running allowed me to think. Lynn's betrayal weighed heavily on me. Just 9 days ago, I thought she loved me as much as I loved her. Her broken vows shook me deeply. Is any of this my fault? I wondered, as I tackled the first hill. Maybe I had been too focused on work and not on our marriage. Other questions surfaced. How would she react? Would she confess or make excuses? Would she ask for forgiveness? I knew I couldn't stay with her after such a betrayal. How would I handle seeing her at work? Would her presence with other men anger me? I doubted she would leave town. She'd likely stay and try to prove divorcing her was a mistake. Reaching the second hill, I realized I wasn't running hard enough if I still had energy to think. By the time I finished, I was exhausted, which was the goal. I cooled down for 20 minutes, showered, and settled in the hot tub with a beer. Lynn was still absent. By 11 p.m., after dinner and 2 Ted Lasso episodes, I went to bed. Lynn didn't come home or contact me. It was the first time we'd gone over 12 hours without knowing where the other was. I took melatonin and Motrin for my sore collarbones and slept until 7 a.m. The next morning, I noticed her door was shut. She must have come home late. I heard nothing inside. I had coffee, bagels, showered, changed, and headed to the golf course. The late May weather in Des Moines was perfect. I played 18 holes with friends and had lunch. By 3 p.m., I ran out of reasons to stay away and drove home. Neither of us reached out that day. When I got home, she was gone, and the same pattern repeated. Sunday morning, I prepped for my 4 p.m. flight to D.C. I spent the morning working in the yard, something we used to do together. Lynn showed up around 11 a.m., glanced at me through the door, and went inside. Forget this, I thought. If she wanted to stay silent, so be it. But I wasn't letting her control things. I left for the airport without leaving a note or message. I doubted she'd even notice I was gone, but I hoped she would. And I half hoped she'd bring Justin over and add to her betrayals. On Tuesday, 2 significant events occurred. First, Eli called to inform me that Mary's team had gathered new photos and videos of Lynn and Justin Banks. It was clear their relationship was thriving. The second event was unexpected. A text from Lynn, and it was far from friendly. "Where are you?" she wrote. "In Washington," I replied. "What? You inconsiderate fool, when were you planning to tell me?" she shot back. "I would have if you'd been home before 1 or 2 a.m. and actually spoken to me. Where were you on Friday and Saturday night?" I asked. She ignored my question. "I was worried sick. Why didn't you text me?" she wrote. "I did, and you didn't respond. Did you call the police if you were so worried?" I countered. "No, but you're still an a-hole for not communicating," she said. "Did you reach out to my boss, my dad, my brother, or any of my friends to check on me?" I pressed. "I reached out to people. Don't try to put this on me," she responded defensively. "Name them," I demanded. "I'm not going to stand for your insults," she replied. "Well, Lynn, you might think I'm insensitive, but at least I'm not a liar like you. If you truly cared, you would have reached out properly, and you didn't. So do you want to explain where you've been or confess anything?" I challenged. "You're impossible, Ty. You're just pissing me off," she snapped. "You can't tell the truth or take responsibility, Lynn. One last thing. Screw you," I wrote before ending the conversation. She didn't respond. Was she realizing I knew something? Did she feel guilty? I was sweating and breathing hard as if I'd worked out. I collected myself, showered, and went to the conference. The week passed, considering my marriage was over and I was an emotional wreck. I made some good connections and attended useful panels. The weekend with my dad and brother was supportive but tough. My dad couldn't relate to Lynn's betrayal. He had loved my late mom faithfully for 41 years. My brother Elliot's marriage was strong and loving, so he too couldn't fully understand. Still, we played golf, watched a Nationals game, and had a great lunch. Spending time with my nephews was comforting. Sunday night came fast. At Reagan, my dad hugged me and said, "It hurts, son, but you'll get through this. Lynn's shown who she is. Keep moving forward, one day at a time." "I know, Dad," I whispered. He hugged me again, then drove off. I landed in Des Moines around noon and headed straight to the office to check in and see if Jody Meyer's negotiation stance had shifted. Her new offer was more favorable, indicating that the nurses wanted to avoid a prolonged strike and trusted Unity to be fair. Before leaving, I peeked into Connie's office. She looked up, giving me her usual expression that said, "What now?" I grinned. "Hey, boss. Thanks for letting me go last week. It was worth it. Visiting my family really helped," I said. "Don't care. Have you done anything useful since you've been back?" she replied, her tone dry. "Not much yet, but we're close to a deal with the nurses," I said. "Don't thank me. Get out and come back when you have something concrete," she said, a hint of playfulness in her voice. Her teasing felt reassuring, grounding me. Just before stepping out, I paused. "Hey, boss," I said. "What?" she replied. "I love you too," I said with a grin. I ducked out as Connie playfully threw her pen at me. Working with people I respected was healing in its own way. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe the pain would eventually start to fade. On the drive home, I called Eli Sharp for an update. He picked up promptly. "Come by at 7 a.m. tomorrow, Ty. We're ready to move forward. Unfortunately, Lynn spent the weekend with Justin again. We have photos, including some of her in a revealing outfit at their usual hotel," he said. "I'll be there," I replied, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. The house was dark and empty when I got home. It felt like our marriage was over. We hadn't seen each other or had a real conversation since I left for Kansas City over 3 weeks ago. I missed the Lynn I married, the fun, curious, and strong woman I thought would be my partner for life. I set my bag down, grabbed a beer, and sat on the back porch as night fell. Despite my anger, I cried, mourning what was lost. I knew I'd eventually run out of tears for her. My pride was hurt, but I wouldn't tolerate her betrayal. Tonight, I let myself grieve. At 10 p.m., I was exhausted and went to bed, asleep almost instantly. I didn't know or care when Lynn came in, whether it was minutes or hours later. I got up at 5:30 a.m. to fit in a workout before meeting Eli. Lynn's car was in the driveway, and her door was shut. She was starting her 3-day shift, which meant less interaction for the week. "Good to see you, Ty," Eli greeted me. Private investigator Molly and an assistant, Peg, were also there. After brief hellos, we got to business. "We're ready to proceed, Ty," Eli began. "Molly has plenty of evidence of Lynn's infidelity. It's enough, and you owe her over $6,000. Thank her, and let her move on." Molly smiled, patted Eli's shoulder, and said, "Good luck, Tyler," shaking my hand. I thanked her and promised to recommend her services if needed. Eli and I discussed serving Lynn the papers. I wanted it done at work, ideally when Justin was present, maybe Thursday at the end of her shift. Eli advised against waiting too long. Waiting gives her time to catch on. You've stayed composed, but you're reaching your limit. Let's serve her tonight or tomorrow. Molly's team will find the best time. I agreed. I was ready for the confrontation, thinking of Clint Eastwood and outlaw Josie Wales. So guys, are you going to pull out your tools or just stand there and whistle Dixie? Eli mentioned a state law that allowed suing Justin for alienation of affection. It wouldn't likely succeed, but could damage his reputation at the hospital. I supported the idea. We decided Eli would call when everything was set. I talked to Lynn on the back porch, with surveillance in place in case things escalated. Peg arranged for one of Molly's team members to be nearby and ready to call the police if needed. I doubted Lynn would react violently, but 4 weeks ago, I never would have imagined her cheating with a medical student. I spent the afternoon emailing Jody Meyer about the latest hurdle in our contract negotiations. By 3 p.m., I was exhausted, but we finally reached an agreement. Neither side was completely satisfied, which usually meant it was fair. The nurses secured solid increases in base pay, overtime, and vacation days, while the hospital achieved a 5-year contract instead of the 3-year term Jody had initially wanted. Even Connie managed to smile when I placed the signed papers on her desk for the board of directors. As I was just a 5-minute walk from home, my phone rang. It was Eli Sharp. "Hey, counselor, how's your day going?" I greeted. Eli chuckled. "Ty, I know this isn't easy, and I'm not trying to make light of your situation, but I just heard from Molly. She's handled things with Lynn and Banks. They had just finished a long surgery and were in the staff lounge with another nurse, the lead surgeon, and Mike Devlin, Unity Healthcare's head of surgery, who was there to observe. The lead surgeon, Alex Greer, is one of the best in the world, and he and Devlin go way back from their days at Yale." Molly walked into the lounge looking as she always does, unflinching and commanding attention. Banks, being a med student, was annoyed by what he assumed was an outsider and asked if she was lost. Molly told me, "Can you believe this kid?" I pushed him back into his chair, leaned in, and watched as he started shaking. Then I said, "Are you the married woman's fling named Justin Banks?" He barely squeaked out a yes. "Well, kid, you've been served." The room went silent, everyone staring. Molly turned to Lynn, who looked like she was on the verge of breaking down. Molly softened her tone, but kept the sarcasm. "And you, dear, are you Lynn Clinton, Tyler Clinton's wife?" Lynn nodded and whispered, "Yes." "Well then, you too have been served." Molly said it was one of the most satisfying moments she's had in years. She lingered just long enough to take it all in. Dr. Devlin turned to Banks and said, "If what I think happened is true, you'll never practice medicine in Iowa, or anywhere else if I can help it." Then he looked at Lynn and put the pieces together. "Lynn, please tell me you're not that foolish." She looked down, and as Molly left, she heard Devlin say, "Lynn, go home and don't come back until a union rep speaks with you." Eli paused, finally catching his breath. "So, Tyler, your wife has been served and is likely heading home now. Molly's boyfriend is nearby and ready to step in if needed. Brace yourself, man. This is going to be one of the hardest moments of your life. Stay calm, don't raise your voice, and if things get overwhelming, step outside or leave the room. You'll get through it, Ty. The worst is behind you." We talked a bit longer, going over the next steps. It felt like Eli was trying to stay on the line as long as possible to support me through what was coming. Just as we were wrapping up, I heard Lynn's car pull into the driveway. I thanked Eli and told him I'd call him afterward with an update. We talked a bit longer, discussing the next steps. I felt like Eli wanted to stay on the line as long as possible to support me through what was coming. Just as we were wrapping up, I heard Lynn's car pull into the driveway. I thanked Sharp and told him I'd call him when we were done for an update. Lynn walked in and found me sitting on the back porch. She looked awful, clearly having cried during the drive home. When our eyes met, I saw both anger and sadness in hers. She spoke first. "How long have you known?" "3 awful weeks, Lynn," I replied. "How did you find out?" she asked. "Not that it matters, but I came home early from a conference in Kansas City to surprise you and spend time with the woman I loved. I got home early Friday morning, but you weren't here. I checked my Glimpse app and saw you were near the airport. Everything unraveled from there." "That morning when you called me about the pen, you lied. You set me up," she said, her voice shaky. "Well, if anyone knows about lying, it's you, given how expertly you've done it to me. Yes, I lied. I wasn't setting you up. I was trying to see if my world was really collapsing. Turns out it was," I replied. She stayed silent for a moment, but I didn't feel like asking her anything now. Everything was exposed, and I just wanted to move on. Eventually, she spoke again. "I can't believe you had me served at work in front of everyone. It was humiliating," she said, her voice trembling. "Take a number, Lynn," I answered flatly. "That was just heartless, Ty. You've made it impossible for us to fix this," she shot back. "I'll say it again, Lynn. If anyone understands cruelty, it's you. Your betrayal is the cruelest thing I've ever experienced. No matter how long you've been with Justin Banks, you inflicted cruelty after cruelty on the man you claim to love. Let me make this very clear. I don't want to rebuild anything with you. I'm divorcing you, and I'm not looking back. If you think I'd want any part of a relationship with you after this, you're delusional," I said, my voice steady. She sat at the opposite end of the couch, her body tense. "But Ty, I love you. I get what you're saying, but I never intended to hurt or be cruel to you. Justin was just a meaningless fling. I know it was wrong and it shouldn't have happened. But we can work through this as adults and come out stronger," she pleaded. "Lynn, I'm trying to keep calm, but you've destroyed our marriage. Any rational adult can see that. Yes, I've seen the photos and videos from your visits to the Hampton Inn. You can't be so naive as to think playing the part of the remorseful wife will make me forget the pain you've caused," I replied, my voice firm. "I can't believe you were spying on me and Justin. Why didn't you just confront me when you found out? I could have ended it right then," she said, frustration rising. "You pushed things too far, Lynn. I shouldn't have had to spy on you. There shouldn't have been anything secret, least of all infidelity. Why would I even talk to you about it? Nothing you say is believable anymore. The real extreme is betraying a faithful husband. Look in the mirror and pray you see the truth," I said, the anger bubbling up. She seemed to be looking for a way to dismiss her actions, hoping I'd accept an easy explanation. Each time she spoke, more nonsense came out. "Ty, divorce is the last thing we need. We live and work at the same hospital. What will people think? It would be humiliating if we got divorced while living and working here. And what about our friends and colleagues hearing these details? Come on, baby. Think about how bad that would be for both of us," she said, trying to deflect. "Lynn, I've been living in humiliation since that Friday morning when I saw you and him leaving the Hampton Inn, right after you lied to me on the phone about where you were. Divorce will be a relief because the spotlight will finally turn on you when people learn about your betrayal. I could ask if Banks was your first and only affair, but I wouldn't believe your answer anyway. Thank God we don't have kids. The idea of raising children with you makes me sick. Why would you want to stay married to a man you clearly have no respect for?" I said, the words feeling like a release. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "What can I say to convince you that Justin was just a fling, nothing serious, no emotion, no love? I know now that fooling around was wrong, but you should know I love you and only want to be with you. I swear I won't even look at another man from now on." "Well, Lynn, if that's what you think, you must be the most delusional person alive. You lied and cheated for months and gave me an STD from your boyfriend, and I'm supposed to just say, 'Sure, sweetheart, let's go back to how things were.' Let me be clear. I will never touch you again. I'll divorce you as soon as possible. Even if it leaves me broke, I'd rather live alone in a shack than in a mansion with you. The pain I've felt this past month has been beyond words. If it weren't for the support of family and friends, I might not even be here. You did this, Lynn. Your cheating, your lies, your cold disregard for me nearly broke me. But you didn't finish me off. I'm still here, and I'm going to move forward, leaving you behind," I said, my voice steady but full of conviction. I wasn't sure if my words got through to her, but as she wiped away a tear, I saw her starting to grasp the gravity of her actions. "I'm sorry, Ty," she whispered before heading upstairs, the weight of what she'd done beginning to sink in. "Sorry isn't enough, Lynn," I muttered, the finality of it settling in. 6 months later, we were officially divorced. Neither of us wanted the house, so it was sold and we split the equity. Most of our other assets were divided equally, but I ended up with the advantage when it came to alimony. The judge ruled that Lynn wouldn't receive any. Her attorney immediately began to argue, but the judge swiftly cut her off. "Miss Bannister," the judge said firmly, "your client should count herself lucky that I am bound by law to grant a 50/50th division. I don't tolerate dishonesty, and it's clear she cannot be trusted. She gets what the law requires and nothing more. So don't push it, counselor. Court is adjourned." With that, the gavel came down. Maybe it was just me, but he sounded a lot like a duke. My name is Connie Silverton, and I supervise Tyler Clinton at the hospital. My husband Mike and I were deeply worried about Tyler and the pain he endured because of his wife's actions. Although the divorce was finalized, it wasn't the end of the story. For months, Tyler wasn't himself. He had to deal with Lynn's ongoing maltreatment and delays during the divorce. Thankfully, Eli Sharp, a good man, supported Tyler throughout. Tyler faced financial strain due to all the expenses, but in the end, he was free. Being young and talented, I was confident he would eventually bounce back. Although it's been over 3 years since the divorce, Tyler hasn't started dating. He has supportive people around him, and word has it that a girl from Cedar Bluffs visiting her Aunt Beth has caught his eye, something the hospital staff has definitely noticed. Lynn became isolated. None of the married nurses wanted anything to do with her. Some of the more audacious doctors, both married and single, tried to pursue her, spurred by Justin Banks' stories about her being an easy target. 6 months after her divorce, she resigned. She relocated to Denver and began working at a hospital there. About a year later, we heard she married a young, up-and-coming surgeon. Some of our staff ran into her at a seminar, and it seemed she had convinced herself she was a new person after leaving, as she put it, her first loser husband. Justin Banks faced rejection too, even from the cockier doctors. Tyler's solid reputation at the hospital meant that even the notorious playboys distanced themselves from Justin. He completed his residency but received only lukewarm recommendations, leading him to a job at a regional hospital in Frankfort, Kentucky, likely earning half of what he could have if he'd been honorable. He also married a lovely Southern woman, and reportedly they have been happily married for 3 years. That was the story, except for one recent detail from last night. My husband Mike, a retired military officer, invited Tyler to dinner. It was a bit unusual, but not entirely unheard of. We enjoyed grilled steaks and fine wine, and the conversation was light. After dinner, Mike asked us to join him in the living room in front of the big screen. Tyler and I exchanged confused looks, but were intrigued. Mike, assuming his old Army colonel stance, turned to us and began, "Tyler and Connie, what we see and discuss tonight stays between the 3 of us. It will be destroyed and never spoken of again." I nodded, familiar with Mike's serious side. Tyler looked at me and then agreed. "All right, Mike, whatever you say." "Tyler," Mike continued, his tone grave, "almost 4 years ago, a despicable woman and a worthless man caused great injury to someone Connie and I consider like a little brother. We've spent countless hours discussing this injustice and praying for balance. I have friends and contacts in government, and during my 24 years of service, I've accumulated many favors. Over the past year, I've called some of them in. Watch the screen." We sat in silence as the screen flickered to life. For the next 20 minutes, we watched 2 videos, both of which left us stunned. The first video showed Dr. and Mrs. James Thaddeus from Denver, Colorado. Mrs. Thaddeus, formerly Lynn Clinton, was sobbing and yelling at her husband. "You fool! How could you do this? I've been faithful since we married, and today I receive a video of you cheating at the Hampton Inn. You fool! I hate you. How could you destroy our relationship? Get out of my house now!" she screamed. As Dr. Thaddeus stood and left, Lynn remained, sobbing uncontrollably. She then picked up an envelope, opened it, and read aloud, "Betrayal hurts like a witch, doesn't it? Strumpet." The second video showed Justin Banks standing outside his home in Kentucky, in a quiet, isolated neighborhood. His tearful Southern wife stood next to him, holding glossy 8x10 photos of him cheating. 3 large men, one in a sheriff's uniform, approached Banks. "So, fool, did you think you could betray our sister and walk away?" one of the men spat. "There won't be enough left of you to identify if your remains are ever found." Mike turned off the screen and looked at us. We sat in stunned silence, trying to process what we had just seen. Banks wept. Before the screen went dark, the man in uniform said, "Tyler Clinton's friend, Colonel Silverton, sends his regards." The final scene showed the beautiful young woman from the video and photos. She smiled into the camera and said, "Mission accomplished.